There is a moment in every controlling relationship that nobody talks about. It is not the dramatic argument or the obvious ultimatum. It is something far quieter, far more dangerous. It is the moment you realize you cannot remember the last time you made a decision on your own. And the terrifying part is, you did not even notice it happening. Today we are going inside the psychological architecture of coercive control. We are mapping exactly how a loving partner transforms into your personal warden, step by step, so gradually that most people never see it coming until they are already trapped. If you are watching this thinking this could never happen to me, that instinct makes people vulnerable. Let us start at the very beginning because this is where most people get it completely wrong. Coercive control does not begin with control. It begins with extraordinary attentiveness. Your new partner remembers everything you say. They anticipate your needs before you even voice them. They text you constantly, not because they are monitoring you, but because they cannot stop thinking about you. This phase has an actual psychological name. Researchers and therapists call it love bombing. It is the essential first architecture of everything that follows. Here is why love bombing is so devastatingly effective from a psychological standpoint. When someone floods you with attention and affection, your brain's reward system lights up. Dopamine surges. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, builds attachment rapidly. You begin to associate this person with feeling profoundly seen, valued, and safe. Your nervous system essentially gets calibrated to them. This is not weakness. This is human neurobiology being expertly exploited. Now pay close attention because this is the first invisible power shift and most people miss it entirely. Once the love bombing phase has done its work, the controlling partner begins something subtle. They start making small suggestions that sound like care. You look tired. Maybe you should cancel those plans with your friends and rest tonight. That restaurant your coworker recommended. I worry about you going somewhere I have never checked out. I want you safe. These are presented wrapped completely in the language of love and concern. Because you associate this person with feeling cherished, your brain does not process these suggestions as intrusions. It processes them as evidence of how much they love you. This is the psychological mechanism called benevolent framing, and it is extraordinarily powerful. The controlling behavior is always dressed in the costume of care. And here is the brutal truth. In the beginning, sometimes these suggestions genuinely are just care. The lines are intentionally blurry. That blurriness is not accidental. It is the architecture. Over weeks and months, something specific happens to your decision-making process. You begin to internally consult your partner before making choices, even when they are not physically present. Should I wear this? Would they approve of this plan? Will this start an argument? Psychologists describe this as the internalization of the external voice. The controller no longer needs to be in the room with you. They have built a representative inside your own mind that enforces their preferences on their behalf. You have become, without realizing it, a participant in your own containment. Let us talk about the escalation pattern, because this is where the architecture becomes undeniable. Research on coercive control consistently shows what is called the gradual normalization effect. Each small boundary crossed creates a new baseline. What felt intrusive 6 months ago now feels normal. What feels controlling today will feel normal in another 6 months. The human brain's extraordinary capacity for adaptation, which is usually one of our greatest strengths, becomes the mechanism of our own imprisonment. You adapt, you normalize, you lose the original reference point for what freedom actually felt like, and then comes the weaponization of silence. This deserves its own moment, because it is perhaps the most psychologically sophisticated tool in the coercive control arsenal. The silent treatment is not simply sulking or emotional immaturity. In a coercive control dynamic, silence is deployed with precision. It arrives immediately after you exercise any independence, make an autonomous choice, or push back. The sequence becomes unmistakable over time. You assert yourself, silence descends. You capitulate and apologize, warmth returns. You assert yourself again, silence returns. Your partner has essentially created a conditioning loop. Psychologists sometimes describe this using operant conditioning frameworks. Your independent behavior is consistently punished with emotional withdrawal. Your compliance is consistently rewarded with affection and connection. Over time, your behavior shifts not because you are weak, but because your nervous system is responding to a perfectly constructed reward and punishment system. Now I want to trace the most critical inflection point in this entire process, because this is the moment a shared life genuinely becomes a solitary prison. It happens when isolation reaches a certain threshold. Isolation in coercive control relationships rarely looks like being locked in a room. It looks like your friendship slowly atrophying because every time you made plans there was conflict, or guilt, or a sudden crisis that needed your attention. It looks like your family relationships becoming strained because your partner subtly repositioned them as threats, or critics, or people who simply do not understand your relationship the way they do. It looks like your professional confidence eroding because the person closest to you consistently undermines your competence. In private, in small comments that are always plausibly deniable. By the time isolation is complete, something profound has occurred. The controlling partner has eliminated all competing sources of perspective, validation, and information. They have become your primary reality check, your main emotional support, and your central source of self-worth. They are simultaneously your source of pain and your only available comfort from that pain. This dynamic, where the person causing harm is also the only available source of relief, creates a psychological bond that is incredibly difficult to understand from the outside and nearly impossible to break from the inside. There is a concept called learned helplessness that is deeply relevant here. When a person experiences repeated situations where their actions do not produce the outcomes they should logically produce, they eventually stop trying. They stop asserting themselves not because they have been overtly broken, but because the evidence their brain has accumulated says that trying does not work. This is not a personality flaw. This is a documented psychological response to a specific set of conditions. Understanding this is critical because it explains something that confuses outsiders endlessly. Why does someone stay? The answer is complex, but a significant part of it is this. By the time the full architecture of coercive control is in place, the targeted person is not making a free choice to stay. They are making a choice from within a profoundly constrained psychological reality, where leaving often feels more dangerous, more impossible, and more disorienting than remaining. So what does this knowledge actually do for us? Because information without application is just interesting noise. If you are watching this and something is resonating in a way that is making your chest tighten, here is what matters. The recognition itself is significant. Coercive control specifically depends on the targeted person not being able to see the system. The very fact that you can name a pattern gives you a framework that the dynamic needs you to lack. That is not nothing. That is actually the first real crack in the architecture. If you are watching this concerned about someone you love, the most important thing to understand is that confronting them directly often backfires. Not because they are in denial, but because the controlling partner has already framed concerned outsiders as threats. The most effective approach is consistently maintaining the connection. No judgment, no ultimatums, just presence. You are preserving an exit pathway they may need in the future. And if you are someone who has been through this and you are on the other side of it now, something important deserves to be said clearly. The gradual erosion of your autonomy was not evidence of your weakness. It was evidence of a deliberate and sophisticated process being applied to a human brain that was functioning exactly as human brains do. The shame belongs entirely elsewhere. Coercive control operates in the space between what we can prove and what we can feel. It leaves no bruises that show on skin. It leaves its marks on decision-making, on confidence, on the ability to trust your own perceptions. Understanding the architecture does not just help us recognize these dynamics. It helps us take them seriously, name them accurately, and respond to them with the gravity they actually deserve. Because the most dangerous chains are always the ones nobody else can see. And the first step toward breaking them is simply learning to see them yourself.